You're live.
Welcome back, folks. This is House Corrections and Institutions Committee. It's about 2:00 on Thursday, April 9th. We want to work with our legislative council on some recommendations that came from the Victim Notification Task Force group in terms of some suggested changes to statute. One of the recommendations that came out pertained to parole notifications for victims. And we do have the parole board bill over there, which is H 559. And I know that there was thoughts. I know Jennifer Pullman proposed an amendment, spoke to that committee and said we're reviewing 559 to see if there could be language added to our parole board bill. And I'd like just to see what the concept of that language is, because hasn't been presented to Senate institutions yet. So we can't really review that until it's presented to Senate institutions. And then there's a few other items in the task force as well in terms of buying technology that needed to be updated a little bit and updates in the statute. So I also want to go over that as well with our legal counsel. So Hillary, welcome.
Thank you.
Identify yourself for the record.
For the record, Hillary Chitter Ames for the Office of Legislative Counsel. I'm happy to start with an update on where H 559 and the parole notification language stands.
Yep.
So Senate institutions heard testimony from Jennifer Pullman and from Mary Jane Ainsworth about two different provisions that talk about parole notifications or notifications to victims about parole board hearings concerning defendants. There's a provision in Title 13 in a victims chapter, and there's a provision in Title 28 in the parole board chapter. Under current law, the provision in Title 28 provides an opt-out. So it says the DOC shall notify, but the victim can waive that notification in writing. Title 13 currently says if the victim requests, the department shall notify. So the request from Jennifer Pullman and the task force was to make sure that Title 13 is consistent with Title 28 in providing an opt-out. So the Senate Institutions Committee thought that was something that they were interested in putting into H 559. So an amendment is currently underway with specific language on that, but I will just share that there was some discussion about the best way to kind of align that provision in Title 13 and that provision in Title 28, whether it was putting the same language in both places or whether it was putting all of the details in one place and providing a cross-reference and where that should be. Where Senate institutions landed was that Title 28 will have all of the information related to victim notification of parole board hearings. And where in Title 13, there are currently kind of two lines with part of that information, anything that is in those Title 13 subdivisions will be incorporated into Title 28. And that Title 13 provision will have a cross-reference to Title 28. So that would avoid a situation where a change gets made to one and not to the other, which is kind of the current scenario. But it would still make sure that there is a reference for anyone reading either title or either provision to be able to get all of the information. So I think the Senate institutions plan is to share that draft with stakeholders and folks who've given testimony or might be interested, and that they would make any tweaks from there. But that is where that piece currently stands. So it's an abstract way to describe the statutory language changes. So if you have any questions to clarify, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm just reading Title 28, Title 7 it's 30 days prior to a parole hearing, the victim of a listed crime shall be notified as to the time and location of the hearing. And such notification may be waived by the victim in writing that you're opt out.
Yep.
And it's about a hearing parole eligibility hearing. And it's only for listed crimes.
Correct. So both, so the provisions that we're talking about are, as you said, 28 VSA 507 and then 13 VSA 5305. Both refer specifically in the DOC parole provisions to victims of listed crimes. And there's a provision in Title 13 that identifies the listed crimes. So they're consistent in requiring notification for the same group of people. There are some slight language differences between the two provisions. And the idea will be that the kind of broader version of language will be what is finally reflected in Title 28 and then the cross-reference in Title 13. So I think the best example of that is 28 VSA 507 refers to just a parole eligibility hearing,
Right.
but the Title 13 provision refers to a parole board hearing concerning the defendant, which could be a slightly broader set of hearings than a parole eligibility hearing. So I think there could be some discussion in Senate institutions about to make sure that the new language is appropriately pulling from each of the two provisions. But the idea will be that all of the necessary language will be in an amended 28 VSA 507 and a cross-reference in 13 VSA 5305.
As for the eligibility hearing, is there anything in terms of their eligibility hearing? Let's just see if they're eligible. That's at the time they'd be eligible for parole. At that eligibility hearing, would they also be making the decision that the person would be put on parole at that eligibility hearing?
I would want the parole board director to confirm that. Her testimony before the Senate Institutions Committee provided a kind of broader explanation or overview of the kinds of hearings that they hold, which I think will be potential anticipated feedback from her on the draft amendment language. We'll be making sure that the language referring to the hearing is appropriately broad as intended.
I'm just looking at the current statute just to see.
I can pull it up if that's helpful for the committee. We can all look at it. There's also a second provision in Title 28 that refers to parole board victim notifications. That's 502A. So
That's release on parole.
yes, which similarly refers to currently does not include the opt-out explicitly. So the proposed language before Senate institutions will ensure that any language referring to parole board victim notification is an opt-out, and that will all be in Title 28. But the language in 502A will stay there.
So there's not going to be a reference to 502A?
There won't be, I guess, as currently envisioned, there isn't an explicit reference to 502A, but it will stay as is with some suggested language for to mirror the such notification may be waived by victim and rights.
If the board determines this is within 30 days of the inmate's eligibility date, parole board would conduct a review. The board may deny release, set a hearing through its administrative review that a victim or victims should have the opportunity to participate in the parole board hearing. If the board determines there is a victim or victims who should be notified, the Department of Corrections would notify the victim or victims, and the board would provide them the opportunity to participate. So it's kind of an opt-out there in a different way.
It certainly allows for an opt-out more than the current language in Title 13, but I think there's a suggestion to just be very clear anywhere that we're talking.
And then there'd be language in Title 13 that would refer to Title 20.
Correct. Would refer to both 502A and 5305. Or sorry, 502A and 507.
502A is Title 13.
502A is also Title 28.
It's the hearing itself.
Hold on, I haven't just. I just-
We're hearing
yeah.
itself.
28.
So the three provisions are 28 VSA 507, 28 VSA 502A, and then
502A.
13 VSA 5305. All of them up in case. Any of them.
Because one is the eligibility hearing, that's 507.
Yes,
And then 502A is the one that's when the person will be released on.
correct. And both of them currently refer to within 30 days. And as written right now, Title 13, referring to any parole board hearing concerning the defendant, also includes at least 30 days. So that will all be consistent. But I think that is the kind of testimony that after witnesses have reviewed the draft language can point out if there are any issues with aligning those three provisions.
So then you got two more changes that have been recommended, right?
Correct.
Task force.
I came prepared to talk about one other, so I will briefly stop
So
sharing.
the two that I have deals with victim survivors' ability to opt out of any services.
Yes, that was the other one I looked into.
And then the other one is DOC has agreed to bring back the menu of notification options within their Vine.
Yep.
And you'd need to amend Title 28 to include language found currently in 135304B.
Yes, that was the other one that I looked into to provide a little more to the committee. I didn't look into the first one.
5304B.
So if there's more interest, I'm happy to come back, but that's one I.
And do we have a vehicle for this one you're about to talk to?
So the only potential vehicle I'm aware of is getting it to Senate Judiciary for the miscellaneous judiciary bill.
And that's over there.
It's currently in Senate Judiciary.
It's currently in Senate Judiciary. Someone would have to make that recommendation.
Yeah, I'm not aware how else.
Well, let's talk about it here and then, I gotta go downstairs. Talk about that here and then maybe we can figure out how the work can get downstairs and just. Okay.
Good
Good luck. Yeah, hope I don't come back a few inches shorter.
Oh, I think you'll be okay, Alice.
Yeah.
Hold the line, Alice, hold the line.
So I'm happy to go ahead and talk about this other bullet. Great. I'll go ahead and share just because I'm a visual learner and I struggle talking about some of this without something to look at. So we're on this third bullet, 13 VSA 5304B. I'll go ahead and pull that up. So that is right here. So 5304B explicitly says a victim may decline. Show note. Let me just.
You're on 5304.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing that safe thing where I share only a particular
Yeah.
window, but then switching between windows. Doesn't work. All right, shut it up now. Perfect. So 13 VSA 5304B says that a victim may decline any service provided by the victim advocate program under this section. So this section generally talks about a bunch of things that prosecutors have to do and the victim advocate program has to do. And this subsection B says that even though there are a bunch of other descriptions of information or services that prosecutors have to provide, some of which include opt-out language, there's this explicit addition saying a victim can decline any service offered. So there's always an opt-out. As I understand the request, there is not currently a similar provision for the Department of Corrections in Title 28. So somewhat similarly, just like in Title 13, there are a bunch of provisions saying, prosecutors shall do these things with respect to notifying or providing services to victims. There are a number of different provisions in Title 28 that say that the Department of Corrections shall provide notifications particularly, but shall provide these options. Some of them do refer to opt-outs, but there is not an explicit kind of opt-out catch-all like this language. And from the Victim Notification Task Force report, my understanding is that DOC represented in a meeting that they would need something like this subsection B in Title 28 to feel comfortable offering a menu option for providing notifications to victims, which would be, all other provisions of law notwithstanding, a victim can decline any service provided by the Department of Corrections. So that's, I think, the ask. I don't think there's an explicit provision that would be not withstood. There isn't somewhere necessarily that on its own prevents DOC from offering a menu. But I think the idea is to make clear that all of the provisions in Title 28 requiring DOC to provide notification don't prevent it from offering the menu. So it would be adding language like B somewhere in Title 28. I don't think there's a supernatural place to add it. My initial recommendation is that early in Title 28, there's a section 102 about all of the responsibilities and powers of the Commissioner of Corrections, which is a place where the statute lists everything DOC is supposed to do. It would be a little odd to put this opt-out there because generally the powers and responsibilities listed are like affirmative duties and not opt-outs. But that is still a kind of general place that it might be easier to put instead of other parts of Title 28 refer to very specific areas of DOC work. And so putting this kind of broad opt-out there in other sections kind of makes it look like it's specific to a kind of thing DOC does and not generally. So I think that's my initial suggestion, although I don't think it's ideal. It's my least of other unideal options.
Least of the worst.
Least of the worst. But I think it would be interesting to hear from DOC or any other witnesses, whether DOC in particular, but if they had a preferred place other than 102 to put this. It could be a new section, which could be another way of avoiding having it be a little bit of an oddball in section 102. I think it would still be in kind of early, one of the early sections. So I guess maybe those are the two options I would recommend, is that you could put it in 102, or you could have a new section that just provides that opt-out language. So those are kind of the options. Happy to answer questions.
I don't have huge, I would defer to your best guess on where to put it. I'm a little more concerned about getting this to Senate Judiciary. And with the context, do you know if the task force group has met with Judiciary at all, or have they only been in institutions?
I'm not sure. They've definitely been in Senate institutions. I'm not sure.
Okay.
That's not sure.
And when you're making that decision about where to put this, do you just confer with DOC on your own to find out what they would want, or do we need testimony on that?
I either need your permission to confer with DOC about what they want, or you could take testimony. Generally, once you guys are considering something, I don't get to willy-nilly talk about it with anyone without confirming with you that I get to talk about it.
Does anybody in the committee have a problem with? I
No.
No issue with that.
don't.
Right? So I can reach out to Haley and she will pull in
Okay.
Yeah.
whoever's appropriate. That sounds great. And so I will run both sample language and some proposed locations by Haley, and then we can come back to the committee with kind of the proposal, and then you can decide how to get it over to Senate Judiciary.
I don't know enough about the statutes, which kind of stinks. I don't read every single statute in the world. But it just, to me, I just wonder in the back of my head why it even needs to be done. You know, I mean, I understand why you're said, it needs, because DOC says they think they need it done, but or maybe you just do it, but it's not illegal because it's not there.
There isn't anything explicitly saying that DOC can't offer the menu, but I appreciate that they are reading a list of requirements and
Yeah.
saying, this isn't clear that we can just turn it into a menu for everything.
More of a vaccine type situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are some provisions about parole board victim notification. Also, there's at least one provision about notifying victims related to earned time. And I just think they're all structured a little bit differently. And so even if each of them, and I think there's actually in the work camp section, there's something about notification. So I think from DOC's perspective, there are enough nuggets that, you know, they're like, it's not entirely clear we can offer the menu, and statutory authorization would be comfortable. But I think that's also, I only have the kind of representation in the Vine report about DOC's understanding or reading of the statute. And what I just paraphrased is my best understanding of what that is.
Yeah.
I think if you have testimony from them, you could also probe further to say, can you explain why you really think we need statutory language?
Right.
But that's my understanding of the notification provisions of Title 28,
Okay.
on which I'm not an expert, but I know much more than I did a week ago.
And so we can put a flag with the group, right? And then have Hillary's following up with Haley, so we'll have the more precise location, but by the time we circle back with that group. Yes, sir.
Bullet point number 1, I'm changing gears here, seems to indicate that it's already currently in the miscellaneous judiciary.
It does, and that is something that my understanding was that I was coming to talk about the second and third bullets, so I
Yeah.
did not confirm that, but I'm happy to confirm that it is in miscellaneous judiciary currently. And if the committee has other questions about that. I think this committee took testimony on heard, if unrelated to a specific bill, I think more about the automated system and the technology related to that. I am not up to speed on all of that. I know that was much earlier in the session. So I'd also just need to take a look at that. But I will check whether that is currently in miscellaneous judiciary and let the committee know by email.
I can look quick too, see if I can find it.
That my version of not doing math in public is not looking. But
Want it more open?
Brian, can you get the door? Oh, yeah.
so happy to answer any other questions you have. Otherwise, I think I have to clear next steps on the remaining items. And
Miscellaneous judiciary is the House version, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're gonna talk to us about the other one that Alice pointed out, or no?
The second one.
Yes.
Yes, so that's the one that amended language will be on the Senate Institution's website at some point in the near future. And I can flag to Tate when that's up. You can take a look at it. And then if the committee has further questions on that or wants to provide any input, I'm happy to come back and talk about that.
Hillary, sorry, you said the amended language would be where?
On the Senate Institution's webpage, once they've approved it, I think by early next week. No later than early next week.
Thanks.
But yeah, just to recap, we have these 3 bullets for the first one. Troy might beat me to it right now, but otherwise I will confirm whether or not that's in the miscellaneous judiciary bill. And if it's not, and the committee is interested in pursuing it, I will look into it more and come back ready to talk about it. The second one will be in amended language to H559 in Senate institutions. I'll flag to Tate when that is up early next week so the committee can take a look. And then for the third one, I will reach out to Haley, get some DOC input on language and location for this.
Yeah.
And then the committee could then look at that and take any testimony from any other witnesses.
It seems to suffice.
Yes.
For bullet one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like that is in. And that's 13 VSA 5314B.
Well, it's 5314, but it's no longer B.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that was for that third thing you just talked about?
That's for the first bullet.
Oh, it's for the first bullet. Got it. Thank you.
interesting. So it's at the end of A.
Yeah.
That still seems to be referring to the same thing. So
I think
I'll
so,
double
yeah.
check with,
Okay.
Eric is the main owner of the miscellaneous judiciary bells.
Put that in a better safe than sorry bucket too. It's getting full today.
Okay.
So when we're not talking about the thing on the second page, you just told us why. So
What thing on the second page?
the second thing Alice mentioned with the, I don't have my glasses on. I probably should put it on. Oh yeah, you already mentioned it, the menu. Never mind. Never mind.
Yeah, sorry, we have both the report and then this memo, and I was
Yeah.
looking off those 3 bullet points in the memo. So I think that covers everything. But if there is something else, the committee has further questions.
Does anybody have any other questions or input on those ones?
So we see the language.
Right, we'll have to see the changes,
But that's been.
and then once we see something,
I've been there before.
have you?
Where something seems easy enough and.
Yeah, it's always harder when you, hard things are easy and then easy things are hard.
Thank you, Hillary.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yep. And I guess that will end our meeting for now. We'll be back at 3:15. If you want to take a